And we are on. We're on live, and welcome everyone. Thank you for coming today to maximizing your human potential and performance. Quite a long string of words there, but basically it's all today about motivation and finding the new you, becoming that next version of yourself. If you're into your own personal development, this is the place to be. Today's guest is Pete Cohen, and Pete Cohen came to my attention on a while back, actually, in my early 2000s, on a national morning TV breakfast show called GMTV. So for those of you who live in the UK, you'll probably know that breakfast TV was so new to us at the time. I mean, we didn't have TV first thing in the morning, and suddenly all this TV was there in the morning while you're eating your cornflakes and having your egg, or one, boiled egg normally for me. So Pete's been there, and he was the resident coach for 12 years before we even knew that life coaching was a thing, because life coaching has become a very, very specialist industry, a specialist career. Everyone accepts it now. They don't laugh at us when we say we're a coach and make strange jokes about it. It's a real thing. So Pete has done that. And 30 years in the personal development field as well, having written 20 books. I can't imagine writing 20 books, Pete. I just found it hard to write one. That was pretty hard. And you've traveled the world as a motivational speaker and just sharing your expertise and your leadership. Lots and lots and lots to go on here about, Pete, but we're not going to have too much chit chat. We'll cut straight to the chase, because I was curious about the GMTV stuff and how you got into that. I mean, you must have been really young, I think, when you got onto television. I just wondered how you got that break. How did it all come about?
It wasn't something I ever really planned, but I suppose in the back of my mind, it was probably something I always wanted to do. But first off, I just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity. I really honor opportunities to connect with people. The fact that you would put me in front of your audience, I just want to take a moment to thank you for that. And I'm also now sharing this as well, so that people that follow me, because I want them to follow you. I want them to have you in their life, because I genuinely believe that you are a light of hope, a light of possibility, and just a really lovely human being.
Oh, Pete, you're going to make me cry now. I haven't got any tissue. Stop it. I'm just going to make sure that we're actually anyone here, just put a comment there so I can make sure that we are live, because if I am going to cry on air, I might as well do it in front of someone that's there. Right, let's have a quick look. If anyone's going to put a comment
there
in,
are
just
people.
To make sure.
There are people.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear. I'm energized by people being around me. Fabulous.
Well,
fabulous,
I will
fabulous.
ask people sorry to interrupt you. I would also ask people to share this as well. You just don't know if you share something. I've done that a number of times, shared posts, or people have shared posts, and people in a real difficult situation have found the post, had no idea who I was, that they saw it, and it was a life-changing moment for them.
Brilliant.
But just in answer to your question, how did I get on television? It's interesting you said about being a life coach when people didn't know what that was. I was actually a personal trainer when people didn't know what that was in 1989.
You keep on choosing obscure jobs, Pete. What's your, personal trainer and then coach? People don't even know what these things are. Well,
I suppose
back then they didn't.
Back then, I would like to think I wasn't the first. There was always someone else who went first. I definitely wasn't the first. I actually watched Mr. Motivator, Derek, who I've known for years. I watched him on GMTV, and I thought to myself, I can do that. I want to get up in front of people and teach exercise. And so I did that. But when you work in the health and fitness industry, which I did for many years, you listen to people, which I'm pretty good at doing, and you realize that a lot of people are joining a gym for a particular reason. One of those reasons was to lose weight. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to really look, what does this actually take? So I looked at it from a physical point of view. I looked at it from a nutritional point of view. And then I obviously looked at it from a psychological point of view. And to cut a long story short, I created a weight loss program that became very successful. It was bought by Bupa in 2003. I wrote a book that no one would publish. I found a small publishing house in Wales. The book was called Slimming with Pete. Some people thought it was called Swimming with Pete, but it wasn't.
It's hilarious.
Then I got
What's
Amanda
through the signs?
who reviewed was a good way of losing weight. I got Amanda Ursel, who reviewed diet books in the Sunday Times, to review the book, and she wrote the most amazing review of the book. In fact, the book is here. She wrote at the back, she said, by the end of this book, you'll be in danger of changing your eating habits, taking up regular exercise, and discovered you're a pretty wonderful person. You can imagine if someone writes that about you in the Sunday Times, because back then the Sunday Times had huge power. Then I had Random House, HarperCollins wanting to publish my work,
Of course.
GMTV. It all just took off from there, and I relished it. I welcomed all of those opportunities. I didn't plan it, but I was very, very, very fortunate to be up in front of millions of people in front of a camera. So that's a
And
little
life
bit.
just catapults you to places you don't even realize where you're going. So I'm going to put up a couple of nice things from people who are already on LinkedIn just to say hi. This is hi from Matt Radden. So he's saying hi to both of us. Thank you, Matt. Much appreciated. And I've also got Adrian Williams, and I'll share with you, Pete, I always share this. Adrian is my coach. He's been with me for the longest amount of time. I know that you had a life coach for a good 15 years,
Yeah.
ages. So, Adrian, thank you for always supporting me. And yes, he goes, you will make Joy blush. Say nice things. I would say, shut up, Adrian. No more nice things, please. Yeah.
Why don't can we touch on that for a minute?
Yes, please go for it.
Coaching. I mean, I have a coach right now who's super, super helpful to me. He's a professor of branding at Indianapolis University. He's from the UK. His name's Dr. Ray Sylvester. Fantastic guy, hugely helpful. Well, it's funny that your coach is listening. I'm curious, what impact has having a coach had on you?
It's given me a lot of confidence and made me believe in just taking that next step, even when I can't see it, or when my legs are shaking and I'm going, no, we can't do that, can't do that. Also, it morphs into a semi-friendship as well, whether you like it or not, because I think human beings, once you make contact with someone, you develop a connection to them, whether you like it or not. You just happens. So the longer you are with someone, the more connected you feel. I feel more safer. The psychological safety thing kicks in. Plus, I just feel as though I'm never doing anything by myself. You know, you're flying, but you've got your companion next to you. So you can go a bit higher and a bit higher and a bit higher and just try things. So that's, I must say, Adrian, probably blushing now himself, but that's also what happens. And for me, I always laugh and joke that also he's become like my mini therapist. So
yeah, I think coaching is just vital. A friend of mine was at an event and I was listening and he said, every hero needs a guide, and you think about all the films that we've ever watched. There's someone who's guiding someone, and in fact, another little prop I've got here, this is, Yoda from Star Wars. Yeah. So, he was a guide to Luke Skywalker. And I think, we watch these films and we see people go to a place that they wouldn't have gone without someone who was guiding them. And I'm very fortunate, like you. I've had some amazing people help me and inspire me. That this isn't about me; it's about the quality of the people who have
around us.
What's that word? They poured into me. Some of those people are no longer here anymore, and it's almost, I feel like it's my obligation, Joy, to pour what's been poured into me, to pour it into others.
They've added to you. I just want to say that Jessica's up there, and Jessica's saying, hey, hi to everyone. And Jessica as well brought me and Pete together a while back. I'd written a book for Trigger Publications, and they were doing a webinar, and that's how me and Pete actually met each other. Totally randomly, never met each other before, but Jessica was the connection. So we need people to connect us to other people. So that's a huge thing. And just other people are saying hi. So just give another shout out to someone else. So Amna, thank you very much for joining us as well. Great stuff. Now let's get on to some of the content here as well, Pete, because growing up for you wasn't necessarily an easy thing. I know that everyone will see your success right now, and you're quite casual and quite, you're not quite calm about your success. It's something that you do, uh, something that's part of you. You wanted to shine and you did it, and it's taken you places. But growing up hasn't been easy. I got down here really about got down things about dyslexia and also ADHD, and
Yeah.
something that in your biography, in your biog, is about being 5 years old and saying to your mum that there's something different about me, mum.
Yeah. I was when I was just driving back from Birmingham, I was listening to someone talking about dyslexia, and I mean, look, the first thing I have to say is I was extremely fortunate to grow up where I grew up. Right? I grew up in, of all places, Hampstead Garden suburb. It's one of the most beautiful places. I was so lucky to grow up with the Heath, Hampstead Heath, greenery around me, living in in London. But yeah, I mean, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. Actually, I was diagnosed at 10. The person who diagnosed me at 5 didn't believe in dyslexia, but she said I had severe learning difficulties. So yeah, I hated school. School to me was absolutely pointless. It was the most pointless thing I ever did. And I didn't do it for like a few days. I did it for years. And I felt very insecure because I didn't feel as, like I could be like everyone else. I felt like there was something fundamentally wrong with me. And I realized later that there was something fundamentally wrong with me. It's called being a human being, because human beings, we're all flawed. We've all got insecurities. We've all got imperfections. And as you said before, which I loved, as you've reached out the second season of your life, like you say, you're a teenager again now.
Don't tell everyone, Pete, my life. Honestly, you can't tell Pete anything. I was
Oh
just
no,
saying to everyone, I've gone past the 50 mark, but I've restarted my life. I restarted it, and it's 0 upwards. I won't tell you how old I am right now, but let's
I
say I'm
won't
over
reveal that.
50. Thank you so much, Pete. A gentleman does not reveal a woman's
Yes.
age. Or you
The
can if you
point you were
want,
making
but
was about wisdom, and I have gained a lot of wisdom from having gone through the experiences of growing up as a dyslexic child. I actually ended up becoming a teacher, but didn't do that for very long because I found the system of education very difficult to work within. So I left and went into higher education and was teaching in universities and colleges and stuff. But it wasn't easy. But I don't look back and think, poor me. I look back and I'm very grateful for what I had, because it's made me. And I'll just finish on this. I think I've realized very recently, and I wonder what you think of this, that life is about overcoming. But through overcoming, becoming. Who can I become on the back of what I've overcome? And I've recently faced probably one of the biggest challenges of my life, which is about overcoming. I just wondered
yeah,
what you think about that, overcoming and becoming.
I think overcoming is interesting because, as you get more and more into a profession, you learn lots of jargon. So the thing which is equated to overcoming is resilience. So that's kind of the buzzword, isn't it? Resilience is the thing about overcoming. But resilience gives the impression that, I suppose, you have to bounce back from difficult things and you're meant to bounce back. And when you're not bouncing back, it makes you feel quite inadequate. Um, so resilience isn't necessarily a word I use
Mm.
all of the time. It is about recovery from something, but I quite like the idea of overcoming something, or rising above something or going through something. And for me, it's about a passage through a tunnel. And when it comes to difficult things in life, it's definitely, for me personally, it's been going through a tunnel, because you enter a dark space and you have to remind yourself that there's some light at the end of the tunnel. There will be a very small pinhole, depending how far you are away from, going through it, and you have to keep going. So, call it what you want, call it perseverance, call it, resilience. But yeah, and I think if you don't manage to find or see that light at the end of a tunnel, Pete, it just takes you to a very bad place.
I couldn't agree more. And I know that you and I are quite alike in the fact that we're very open and we are very much still in the learning phase of life. And even though I've experienced a lot, I still feel like I'm really at ground zero of what I'm learning about who I am. And when you were talking about that, about resilience, in fact, the word resilience means to recoil. You can't bounce back because you can't go back. You can only move through life. As you said, it's about how you move through certain things. And some things are very, very, very difficult for human beings.
They certainly
We
are.
are we're social
We've got someone from Wisconsin in the USA, Pete. So
Okay.
just say hi to Melissa. Hi,
Hi,
Melissa.
Melissa.
Thank you. Must be really early over there as well. Probably 4 hours to 7 hours at the moment, isn't it? Just changing
I'm
over from
actually
that
going
daylight
over
stuff.
I'm going to Indianapolis for Thanksgiving in a couple of weeks. But the thing which you were talking about, which I find just so fascinating when you were saying about resilience, I think that when you know who you are at your core, you really know who you are, which is a difficult thing, for an amazing journey, but a challenging journey for people to go inside and think, who am I at my core? When you know who you are, for me, knowing who I am, it makes it a lot easier to navigate through what's coming, because what is coming is difficult, uncomfortable, challenging circumstances, events, environments, people. It's coming.
And
I
in
wonder
a
what.
way, Pete, just want to balance out the positive with the negative, because I'm always, pardon me, even though I know the negative does exist, we have to always balance it with the positive. And I think I was given my name Joy for a reason, even though I resented it when I was miserable during my teens. It didn't feel quite right. But yeah, it's life. It's just life. It's experiences, isn't it? And when I look at emotional intelligence, very, very famous buzzword at the moment, but this thing about self-awareness, we're all trying to find out who we are. And it becomes more and more, it's difficult when you're young, fair enough, but you don't realize it's meant to be a struggle. You're just living life. As you get older, there's something more. And I think I lived with that feeling in my 20s into my 30s, that there's something more. You can't touch it, but
Yeah,
you've got a sensation of just there's something else out there. It takes you into some really deeper places. But you talked about becoming yourself, and I think the whole realm of coaching is about helping people to meet their full potential. Was really that was your mission, right from when your mum was overweight and you
yeah.
helped her. I don't know how old you were when you
I,
came
well,
up
I
with all
just
the good
watched her.
stuff
I
for
watched
her.
her having a problem, which was constantly going on diet after diet and getting on the scales. And I didn't realize at the time I was forming a real curiosity about what is this person doing. So, she believed there was an answer to everything, and she was an amazing, amazing woman. And I'm a better version of her, because I am her and I'm me. And I lost my dad, my mum, and my wife in 5 years, and those are three of the most influential people. But what's interesting, they were hugely influential and inspiring to me, and they did die in a short period of time. But I did have them for quality times and periods in my life that I was able to learn a lot that I am able to pass on to others. So
Yeah, and I think the impact of the people in our circle, we have to acknowledge the good and the bad. Just because we have family members, and people that I meet, they're not that close to their family, and I always find that really sad, because I certainly was, and a bit like you, experienced a lot of grief, and experiencing grief while you're also running a business is hard, Pete. I don't know. I mean, we'll just bring out the fact that you've just lost your wife this year, which for me is huge. It's absolutely huge. And the challenge for business owners and entrepreneurs is, how do you continue through life, continue with your business, which actually is like a baby that needs you every single day? How do you get through that?
well, just give me a bit of time, and let me just touch on a few things around that, because and thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to speak into this, because I have learned so much through what I'm going through. I believe I am, at some levels, I'm better than ever. What I found really interesting is human beings, or for me, these stop moments where everything has changed. So I wonder how many people that are watching this have had a major stop moment in your life where something's happened, and probably it was something quite difficult and challenging, but you didn't ask for it, but it happened, and your life has changed as a result of that. So COVID is an amazing example of the whole world for most people stopped, and everything after that became very different. Most major stop moments I've observed for people is through really difficult circumstances, diagnosis, prognosis, horrible things happen for a lot of people, and we stop. This has been the biggest stop of my life. I had a major stop when my dad died, and then my mum died, and then my wife died. But when I met my wife, we met in Croatia. I was speaking at an event. There was an ash cloud in Iceland. If that stop moment hadn't have happened, where planes were grounded, I would have flown home. I never would have got to know this person. And one of my things, Joy, is around encouraging more people to stop without major incidences. We stop to take the time to learn. We stop to take the time to grieve. We stop to take the time to spend time with ourselves, the people that matter to us, for us to get a deeper sense of who we are. So yeah, it's been ridiculously difficult. This was my best friend. I loved her with all of my heart. She was my business partner. She was everything. She was my life for 13 years. But, she was given 18 months to live in 2011, and as I said, I believe there's an answer to everything. So we found a treatment in America. It was unreal. And we had many great years together that if I hadn't have looked outside of the box, and if she hadn't decided that where she was not who she was, which is another huge learning. Where we are is not who we are. I am a widower. That's where I am, but that's not who I am. I'm more than that.
You're many things.
The circumstances will change, but I have a greater sense of who I am than I've ever had. But it's so crazy that I've had to going through this to have that deeper sense of who I am.
But I think that life, as I said, as a journey, for me, it's a bit like comparing yourself to a fine wine or a fine cheese. These things require time to mature. So I don't look at life as being, let me put it this way. I don't think life should be endured, you put up with it. I think life is meant to be lived. And I think all the experiences that we're having is a bit like, adding something new to the table, or for women, having a handbag and putting something new in their handbag. We just got a handbag full of stuff. But it's about just, this is new. And I think when we're little as children, we don't think about, oh, this is a new thing that I've got to learn today. Now, every day is new. You're learning something practically new at school every single day. Do we ever complain? Say, excuse me, teacher, I'd rather not learn this today. No, we don't have a choice. So it's this thing about getting out of a learning system. I'm not saying the school system's perfect, okay? But getting out of the learning system, like getting towards your 20s, people just assume that you stopped learning. That is an issue. And it took me a while to recognize, Joy, you can keep learning.
You said something there which I have to tell you is so profound. It might seem obvious to people, but when you said about a cheese or a wine that needs time to age, it needs time. That's what I now know. And I know it, but I've always struggled with it, to let things happen. And if all the things that have changed as a result of my wife passing, that's way up there in the top, top 2 or 3 things that I've just realized. Great things take time, and whether we like it.
Patience, Pete. And wouldn't you link the patience back to the fact that, you probably still have this label, for want of a word, ADHD. Your brain thinks quickly, you move around quickly. However you want to define it. And it's been a blessing for you too, possibly a curse too, because I know that you wore yourself out in your early 20s. You got ME.
Chronic fatigue. but again, you just put it across in such a beautiful way where you give me another perspective of who I am. And that's also why we need great people around us. Even if you do know who you are, having people around you that can hold you accountable or just give you a different perspective of who you are. And I don't know too many people that say what you said. And I like to say that I think when you're really good at something, your gift, it can also be a curse if you don't learn how to manage this gift. And listen, I was born 6 weeks premature. I was in a hurry to come out. I've got loads of energy, but no one actually ever really taught me how to manage my energy. I had to learn that for myself. And I learned that through burning out big time. It took 10 years to recover from severe chronic fatigue and ME. But thank you for sharing that, because again, out of this interaction, the fine wine and the fine cheese, which I am, it needs time to age. I'm going to remember that. And also that thing about, I would encourage everyone to watching this, when you know that your gifts, when I think we've all got gifts, we've all got things which some people might call your onlyness, that only you can do. Like, you can only be the mother to your children. There's no one else that can do that. You're the only one. There are things that we can only do. But I do believe, and I'd love to know if you also think the same thing, that there's unique gifts and talents that you have, and they're yours. And the greatest thing you might ever do is bring them to the world. Is that something you believe, Joy? Do you believe that everyone has their kind of unique talent and gifts?
I think as a child, I definitely felt that. As a young child, under the age of, let me think, under the age of 10, I think children know things that adults forget. So growing up as a child, I think I just knew I was special. I knew everything I did was just magic. And then I think getting into my early teens, that kind of knowingness and that kind of power and strength, I think I just lost it. It disappeared, and it hasn't really appeared until my mid-30s. I've got to be honest. I've been chasing, and I was thinking this morning, strangely enough, Pete, I'm going to have speaking to Pete. It's all about life coaching and motivational stuff and everything else. But I feel as though I'm always chasing something. And at the moment, okay, I'm on LinkedIn, wherever you're watching me from. And I'm chasing something else again. And there's this constantly chasing something. And like a nightmare, it's just a couple of inches away from you. Yeah. And you keep, like having a carrot dangled in front of your face, and like a donkey, and you're walking, you keep walking, but the carrot's always like 3 inches in front of you. So I feel as though I'm chasing something, but that's a good feeling. I know there's something that's out there for me, and there's something that I want, and it's a good feeling. It's a motivational energy that I feel, but it's also irritating.
Well, maybe that's a gift and a curse. I was going to ask you, actually, do you find that there's something you're working towards, but do you also get a sense that you have to sometimes just let go to let things happen as a result of, if you're pushing all the time, then you create the resistance for something that maybe will happen. Again, I can't prove this to anybody, because this is just what I believe. Some people might think it to be true or not to be true, but I think one of the things I've realized, and I can hear my wife talking to me right now, like, just be patient. You do the work, relax, enjoy where you are, let it happen. You've done the work. It's like exercising. You've done the workout. Go to sleep, because that's the only way you're going to recover. If you don't sleep, you ain't going to recover. Nothing's going to happen. And I think
so. We all know the equation about rest and recovery, Pete. But you are. I admit to being a workaholic. I keep saying I'm not proud of it, but I secretly am proud of it.
You love what you do.
So rest and recovery, of course, we know we're meant to sleep. Of course, we know we're meant to recover. I will sleep. I believe I've always wanted to and had good sleep. So I've never had a problem with that. And I know that during that period, the body is recovering and repairing. So I know the value of it, and I know what it feels like if I haven't slept well. Okay, but rest and recovery, trying to put that into your schedule when there's 24 hours in a day and you feel as though there's so many things in the day that you haven't achieved already, it can become a dangerous treadmill. Hence the, fatigue, hence the heading towards burnout. And I think I slowly slid into it this year, funnily enough, but I
Mm.
recognized the signs. I was tired. Although I still wanted to do things, I just couldn't. And, then you get thoughts about, why am I doing this? You start doubting yourself a lot,
Mm.
but you still have to keep going, which is why I say when you have a business, the business is a baby and it just needs to be fed all the time.
Yeah.
Like, feed me, so it's a big pressure. So how do you stop it? So that's the skill, I think, of becoming a good leader, is understanding more about yourself and emotional intelligence, awareness.
Awareness.
Where am I energetically? Is
Mm.
that where I want to be? Can I keep going or not? And I know that I need to be enthusiastic about everything that I do in life. If I'm not smiling about the various tasks that I'm doing in my life, then there's something wrong. Apart
Mm.
from the boring routine things, that what you're doing should make you happy, shouldn't it?
Well, obviously we're fortunate enough, and that we do enjoy what we do, right? To the point where it's not really work. In fact, work was created by the Romans to get people to do things that they didn't want to do. They wanted to build an empire, and they realized they had to get other people to do a lot of stuff that they didn't want to do. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are in positions where they have jobs and they don't enjoy them, but they feel that's what they have to do to put food on their table. I'm like you, I love to ask this question, Joy. And I'll ask this to everyone that's watching. In life, what is there that you would love to do so much that you would pay for the privilege of doing it? So for me, I would pay for the privilege of getting up in front of people and speaking to people. It's just like, what an honor. The last few weeks I've spoken in Portugal and Lisbon and a few other places, and I've had people from different parts of the world. It's the most unbelievable thing that you get to share the space with others. You love what you do, and I love what I do, but I am mindful, like you said, it can be a curse as well, because for me, sleep is something I have to be mindful. I actually wear this ring which monitors my sleep. And I
Wow.
know
I don't need
I'm
one of
very
those.
aware. I'm sorry?
I don't need one of those. A ring to
Yeah.
help me to remind me to sleep. No way.
Yeah. I remember hearing you talking about sleep when we did that thing when I interviewed you, and you sleep like a baby, right?
Most of the time.
Yeah. Whereas I don't, I have to really watch my sleep, but I'm not obsessed by it. If I was obsessed about something, I think it would be obsessed about enjoying life more. And I think I don't have regrets. I don't know what the word is, but if I could go back in time and spend the time, if I could be with my wife all over again and have those 13 years that we had together, I would just relish some of those moments, because we
And I
had
think,
an amazing time.
and that's important to remind everyone, because this whole idea about taking each day take it for granted, don't we? That every day, every moment, we just have it. And I do say it to my sister quite a lot as well. But we're on the same page. This idea that the phrase as well, life is not a dress rehearsal. As you go through life, so many of these mottos and these memes and things, they come at you and they do make sense. I have lots of motivational things around me. I put things up on my wall to remind me of things, but it's useless unless you're living it, which is a strange thing to say. You have to live the motto that you see in front of you. And I have one which is just, life is for living now. And I'm really feeling myself being in that space. Life is for living, which, as you said, the word regret, I decided a long time ago that doesn't exist for me,
Yeah, it's too
really.
easy. It's easy, isn't it? It's a dark hole. I don't know where I've learned that from, but I don't have regrets. I don't think I wish I could have, would have, should have. I just think, well, what can I do now?
Yes.
There's a line actually in Lord of the Rings where Gandalf, I don't know which film it is, where Gandalf is, obviously the guide of Frodo and many people. He says it's not about the amount of time, it's what you do with the time. And you're right. I realized that lots of people aren't here anymore who were here. In fact, Arnold Schwarzenegger, in his series on Netflix, the third episode, he talks about the fact that he's realized what life is. He said, I'm only here because of the people that helped me get here. And a lot of those people aren't here anymore. He said, I wish I'd told more of them, thank you. Thank you for helping me, and thank you for supporting me, because we only get to where we get to by the people around us. And there's a big issue in the world at the moment around loneliness. We have a minister of loneliness in the UK. We've never had better opportunities to connect, but yet more and more people feel disconnected. And I, like you, I want to be a light in people's lives. Put my hand out to people and say, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Do you need anything? I might not be able to help you, but I'm still happy to ask the question.
I find that kind of attitude is a beautiful attitude, but the world has become quite full of, should I say, full of fear. And it's people being frightened of one another. Now, I lived in London, and then I moved out to Buckinghamshire, and it was like night and day for me, like being in two different worlds. London, everyone's quite uptight, head down, talk to a stranger, I don't think so, not sure what their intentions are. And I lived my life like that, and I thought it was normal. And then I moved out to Buckinghamshire with my family, and things were different. It was like going back in time, 20, 30 years. People say hello to each other. People actually look at each other. And I thought, this is very weird. It took me a long time to get used to that. But to me, that has become normal now, and that's the way it should be. So we've moved away from this whole concept, perhaps, of, I was going to say, of living in a village mentality-ish. We don't want to be in each other's pockets, but we do actually want to acknowledge that, oh, Pete lives across the road. Oh, Joy lives across the road. Hi, Joy, do you need anything? Oh, if I need something, I can ask you for it. We do want to have that. You mentioned the word connection, and having a minister for loneliness, it sounds like a joke, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It sounds like a film or a comedy film or something. Minister for loneliness, but really? And I heard you say that, Pete, because I don't follow a lot of the news and media. And I thought you were joking. I thought, really? I better just look into this. A minister for loneliness?
Yeah, and like this morning, I saw a guy. I was in Birmingham, and I was staying by the university, and there's a massive gym, and there was a guy who's on crutches. He's got some motor neuron problem, and I was just thinking to myself, I wonder what it's like to walk in his shoes. I mean, that's not probably the greatest expression, but I wonder what it feels like. Yeah, it is a good expression. What's that actually like? And to take a moment and look at the world through someone else's eyes is one of the most beautiful things you'll ever do for anyone. In a world where there's so much polarity, I'm right, you're wrong. I can't stand all of that. I'm appalled. I find it really difficult. I think it's one of the biggest issues in the world at the moment. It's been around for a long time. And I don't think social media particularly helps with that, around polarization of I'm right, you're wrong, rather than, hang on a second, my right is actually, those of you that are watching this right now, if you were standing in front of me, my right is actually your left physically. So how about if I was to look at the world through your eyes and be curious about what do you see, and to suspend what I think to be true and to be curious about who you are. Like, that's what Martin Luther King said. He said the most important question we should be asking is, what can we do for each other? And it might sound like why are we doing this? I mean, I'm sure there are other things that you and I
well, you know what, Pete, I'm doing this because I like talking to you, full stop, okay? But I'm also doing this because I'm mindful of there's an audience out there. There are other people out there that might benefit from even one phrase that we say. So when you said about helping and supporting people, I just know that there have been words that have been said at the right time, in the right place, and they have changed my life. And it seems ridiculous. I've got a fridge magnet downstairs, which I keep, which makes me smile. And it says, I would be unstoppable if only I could if only I could get going. So I would be
Yeah,
unstoppable if I could get going. And I'm thinking, that's so true, because sometimes I'm just so full of stuff and so full of stuff. And then I say, oh, I'll just sit and watch television.
yeah,
I
yeah.
would be
I
unstoppable
find
if I could get going.
that's such a good point because we are not designed to expend energy for no reason. We are only designed through our evolution to expend energy because through necessity, through survival or I need to eat or surviving because something was going to attack you. So in a world that there's so many things that are grabbing our attention that it's very easy for us to feel overwhelmed, that it's no surprise that when you're overwhelmed and you think, which one of these things, well, there's just too many things to do. I don't feel like doing any of them, so I won't do anything. You have to be a special type of person to go, I'm not going to relate too much to how I feel. I'm actually going to relate to what needs to be done. And I saw a guy in the gym the other day. So I was at a big conference. There was, I think, maybe 150 people. And in the morning, there was only 3 people. And I was one of them who was in the gym of all those people. And it was interesting what he said. He went, oh, I'm here because needs must. And that's a need for him. It's not a negotiable. And I think it's hard sometimes for us to work out what's really a priority, what actually needs to be done. And I'm sure you know how to get out of your own way, and you wouldn't sit still for
Well,
too long.
but this whole thing about what do you need? I mean, this area of human potential and performance, I think, again, some really powerful words that I can take on board, but it can create a pressure inside of me to meet my potential, to be high performing. So it's interesting that, you know, you did the sports training and the psychology, and
Yeah.
now you're a motivational speaker. And it's always around this thing about striving and striving and striving and striving. So you're asking us all, and I do it too, to be the
Mm.
best version of ourselves, Pete. If you could if you were able to do a checklist of, I don't know, 5 things to do or 3 things to do or just 2 things to do, what would you say are the most important things to put in place?
Okay. So the first thing, when you said about striving, I'm like you. I feel, oh, there's a bit of pressure with those words. I prefer growing and evolving. And serving. I'm not really into personal development. I'm into serving development. I just want to be more so I can serve higher and serve more. And life is about growth. Everything in life. The man who won the Nobel Prize in 1937, Hungarian guy, came up with this theory called syntropy, which just means every living cell lives for one reason. It lives to grow and express itself fully. It might not, but that's what it's here for. And I think we have an opportunity to grow and express. I'm not saying it's easy. The easiest thing to do is probably do nothing. Stay where you are. But that's not for me. In answer to your question, what I've discovered over the last maybe 10, 15 years around the neuroscience and the psychology of human behavior is our relationship to the future. And unless, for most people, I think this is important, they start to understand, I'm actually creating a future I don't want. If I continue to do this, I will end up in a place but I will think, I don't want to be here. I wish I'd made some different choices. It's called a default future in the psychological term. But to wake up to the reality of who could you be? So like Gandhi said, be the person, be the change that you want to see in the world. And we look at people that have done amazing things. They realize that to reinvent themselves. So you and we are who we are because we have reinvented ourselves. We are not who we were, right? We've taken action, we've learned, we've evolved, we've tested ourselves, we've challenged ourselves. But I don't know how much of who you are was a real conscious choice. For me, it wasn't. For many years, it was just a way of reacting and striving. I didn't know what I was striving for. But now I'm much more focused on the person I want to become. And I know how to do that. I know that by doing certain things every day, I am the becoming of that person. And that's what I love to help and share people, is to start seeing a future self that they want to become. If that makes sense. Does that
And
make sense?
I do understand that as well. And I think, a lot of the I sort of like got stuck in self-help books in my mid 30s, and They kind of saved
Mm,
my life. They were brilliant. They were great. But again,
mm,
sometimes the stuff that you get back from people like myself and back from you, that can create more pressure in people because they're saying,
yeah,
how do I achieve this future self? How do I, be more of me? And I remember reading
yeah,
these things and being inspired, but then also feeling sad because I'm thinking, I don't know how to do it. So uh, I came back to just basics, which is kind of doing things one at a time and
yeah,
reminding myself the phrase I do like within the whole world of, coaching and therapy and stuff is that, where you are is where you're meant to be. I found that quite comforting and quite reassuring.
yeah.
And it meant I could just like go, oh, thank God for that. Where I am is
I
where I'm meant to be.
I'm so glad that you said that, honestly, because I couldn't agree more. It's very easy for people to put pressure on themselves and then compare, which is another huge sickness in society. That you are where you are. This is the best place to be, right? Because this is where you are. And I used to, Dr. Ray, who does a lot of coaching with me, I made a video that was on Instagram about competing. You're competing against yourself. And he said, I don't think that's in keeping with who you are, because I'm known as the people's coach. And he said,
Mhm.
the language that the people's coach would use wouldn't be around you're competing against yourself. The language would be become your own best friend. And that's what I'm learning to do. I'm having to learn to become my own best friend again, because my actual best friend is not here anymore. She's gone. So learning to love and appreciate myself and to accept, as you said, this is where I am. This is exactly where I am. And that's I think it's such a beautiful thing that you said there. So thank you for saying that, because there's no better place to be than where you are right now.
Yeah, I think it's almost, as you go on in life, you kind of, I have said I don't have regrets, okay, but I can look back and perhaps think, would I have done things differently? Um, Perhaps I would have done things differently. But you're only as for me, I don't look back too much, Pete, simply because I can't undo it. I'm
Mm,
thinking like I could spend a lot of time in the past. So, from a therapy perspective, there's the past, the present, and the future. And you can
mm,
spend time in all of those. Now, if you spend a lot of time in the past, it can hold a lot of memories and you can reminisce, but it can also hold a lot of sadness and keep you stuck. And it doesn't matter how much you think about it, you can't change it. So I go, that was a bit of a pointless exercise, but learn something from it. The future, I can live in the future where I want to be, put my pressure on myself of what I should be doing, ought to be doing, must be doing. Again, that's where I can live. And I keep forgetting, and I have to train myself to live in the now, the present. So, me and you talking right now, that's real time, that's now. That's harder. It shouldn't be hard because children live there all the time. I don't think children, go back into the past or
yeah,
go off into the future. They live in the now, what they're doing now, what they're excited about, that new drawing or that new task that they've taken on board, or a new friend that they've met, or that new piece of food that they've eaten. It's everything is now. When
yeah.
did we get so disconnected from that in terms of this time thing, or an artificial like conception of time, or creation of time? You tell me, Pete, am I barking
Well,
up a strange
you
tree?
you you said actually, when which I love, right at the beginning, that when you were a child you realized how powerful you were. And I was beautiful, by the way, when you said that. And then you get a bit older and you have to fit into groups, and life is then about, well, am I doing the right thing? And you know you're supposed to be seen, you're not supposed to be heard, you're not enough, you're not this. And I think our relationship to time is really fascinating, in terms of at what point in time did we actually wake up to the fact that we're not the center of the world, and that there were pressures of things that we had to do. I think the future is now. This is a bit of a misnomer, perhaps, in the way I might, or a way it's hard to explain, but I am creating the future by what I'm doing now. So
I agree.
there are times where I was thinking ahead of the future, like, oh, how long have we been talking for? Oh, I noticed that. I'm aware of self. I'm aware of that dialogue, which is what you were again talking about before, because you're very aware. Emotional intelligence, I'd say, is you're just aware of the experience of being you. You can back off from the experience. You're mindful of what you're thinking and feeling, and you're taking ownership of that. And I think when you're aware of it, I think you realize you've just got a choice. So as you said that, I was realizing, I could start thinking ahead. No, I want to be right here, right now. But it is a conscious choice. And I think some of us have become so, it's very habitual for us to not be in the moment, to be distracted, to not be where we are. But it's a practice, and people I mean, think about this. The ancient Greeks mentioned this thousands of years ago, where they didn't have technology, they didn't have TV, they didn't have distraction. They had distraction, but not anything like now. So I think it's so important for us to stop and to really look at what we're doing with time.
Yes, and I think easier said than done, perhaps, Pete, because I know the struggles that I've had,
Yeah.
just mentally with some of those concepts, just growing up and even to this point in time. So it's something that I have in mind, and this whole thing about self-awareness, it's an ongoing journey. It never stops. You're always learning things about yourself, and having time to yourself is something which can be quite challenging because you have to face you. And I know during my 20s, I hated that. I
Yeah.
didn't want to spend any time with me. I went out. I did everything to avoid being with me. I'd ring you up, Pete. Let's go out for a drink or a date or whatever. Let's go to a party. I just never wanted to be by myself. Every minute was consumed with something. I was either sleeping or doing something because I didn't want to face me and then ask very, very deep sort of, psychological questions or just philosophical questions about who am I? I
Yeah.
just didn't want to do it. It was too scary. So I get the whole thing about not spending time in the now.
I can massively relate to that, and I wonder who else watching this right now or watching it later on can also relate to that. I think that there's often a fear, like in Nelson Mandela's inaugural speech. It was Marianne Williamson who wrote that, about man's deepest fear is
Yes.
greatness. I think that's what I learned from my coach. He said everyone it's like black and white, right and wrong, and he said sometimes it's more than just one thing. And I would think that maybe there is an element for some people that there is fear of just how great you really are. There's also trauma that many of us have experienced in our life that maybe we haven't addressed, and we're holding that in, and we don't want to stop because when we have to face it, the identity of who we think we are, that we think we are this person. But that greatest work, which is the most challenging work, is to go within. And that's why I think working with a coach and working with someone where you can, because no matter where you are, as you said, where you are is where you are, and you've got to this point, you've survived. You might be struggling for some reason, but you've made it to this point. And I'd say to everyone, well done. Seriously, well done. I mean,
Celebrate.
congratulations.
Yeah.
Celebrate where you are, and it's starting to be curious about the possibilities that exist for you to become more, to overcome, and to work with people who can genuinely help you do. Because let's be honest, you and I do what we do because we just love to help people. We can't do it for you. And I also just want to make a point to everyone here. Joy and I met not that long ago, and we filmed a bond, a kind, loving relationship.
Couple of months ago. It's this year, isn't it? So
it is. And
yeah.
I just want people to know that when you found out about my wife, you must have sent me 4 or 5 messages, and they were just messages of just being really genuine. Of Pete, if you need anything, just let me know. I'm here to help you, and that helped. Just knowing that you were there. I didn't pick up the phone to speak to you, but just knowing you were there. I just want you to know that was a beautiful thing. Being there for other people.
You want me to cry? That's what you want me to do, Pete.
Yeah.
I'm not going there. I'm not going there on camera, okay? But I met Pete on LinkedIn because I do look at a lot of messages, and I probably over the years just developed some kind of a sixth sense about stuff, and I can read between the lines. And I just read between the lines of what Pete was saying, because he wasn't being overt about it. But I read I sensed some sadness, and I thought, ooh. And anyone on LinkedIn, when they come into my world, if I sense that, I kind of reach out, because
Yeah.
it just feels the right thing to do, but it also feels like a good thing to do, to say, how are you? And I'll just say, how are you? So that's how I kind of met Pete. I didn't really know him. I just said,
Yeah.
how are you? You know, I've kind of sensed that there's something going on. If you want to talk, talk. And that's exactly how I met you. But I do that a lot, Pete. So I thank you for sharing that with me. And I'm also conscious that there's 5 minutes left, and I want you to talk about your new program and strategy that you've got. I'm going to put that up along the bottom so we can see that. So can you tell us more about this MI365 strategy?
So first off, thank you for doing that. You don't have to put in if you copy that down, the question mark, and it's just mi365.me. So thank you for doing that. I actually created that program when my mum was diagnosed with lung cancer, and it was during COVID, and I just thought, you know what, I want to do something. And I'm really proud of myself, because I created a program that is 30 days. It's absolutely free. And here's a warning: most people don't finish it. You know, doing anything for 30 days. And don't feel the pressure if you want to do it. Don't feel the pressure that you have to do it all. You might just watch a couple of videos and you might take something from it. But basically, it's just distilling everything I learned up until that point. Because people ask me about my books and which book would you recommend? And I really, even though they're up there, I wouldn't really recommend too many of them, because I don't really agree with a lot of the things I've said. I've evolved.
You've moved
I'm not
on.
stopped. I'm still learning. There are some good things in some of them, but that 30-day program, and if any of you who are watching this, if you've done it, feel free just to, because I know that I saw a couple of people that were watching this have done it. It's been a huge game changer for people. So it's all about, who are you now? Where are you now? What's working for you in your life right now? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to become? And it's a journey where I'm coaching you through a series of videos to build a compelling relationship to a future that you want to go out and build and create. So it's a
And
gift
it's
to the
free.
world.
And it's free.
Absolutely free. Absolutely. And I'll tell you, anyone who completes it, anybody, I will speak to them. You'll see at the end, I will speak to
Wow.
you. I'm old enough, and I'm in a privileged position where I can do these things. I can give to the world. And I think sometimes when you give something away that's so valuable, people don't value it, especially if there's no money attached to it. But it's the thing I'm probably most proud of at this point that I have created professionally.
And again, just to remind us, what is the essence of what someone will get at the end of it? Because you're right, this formation of habits is hard.
Yeah.
We all say we want things, and then someone says it's free, and we all go, oh, I don't want it anymore. If we said it was £1,000 or $1,000 or $3,000, oh my God, I really want it, but I can't afford it. So I know where you're coming from on that one. Okay,
Yeah.
so guys,
So,
this is a challenge that's free, and it's worth taking it if you want to change a habit. That's
let
it.
me just add one very quick element to that. So look, I know you're a therapist, right? I'm not a therapist. You're a coach and a therapist. I'm not a therapist. My brother's a therapist. My brother's wife is a therapist. Often I will work with people, and I can quite clearly tell they need to work with a therapist. And you know, Joy, you will be someone who I will be referring people to. There's just no way that's not going to happen. But as a coach, the role of a coach is to take someone from where they are to where they want to be. That's what coaches do, right? The word coach comes from a Hungarian word, which means a coach on horses. You go on a coach on horses because you are somewhere, you want to go somewhere. That 30-day program is specifically designed to help people see not just where they want to go, but more importantly, who they need to carve out and become. So that's what that program is about. So thank you for what you said about that, and I genuinely appreciate it.
That's fascinating. I think I've got someone here who says that they've done your
8
30-day
times.
program.
So
Wow.
who that
8
person is,
evolutions. 8 evolutions, Matt. Good on you.
seeing who this person has become has been one of the highlights of my coaching career. This guy, Matt Rowden, honestly, you couldn't make it up. Not just because he's lost, huge amounts of weight. It's so much more than that. He's developed a much greater sense of who he is and what he's here to do. He's reinvented himself and he's impacted his family. And, you know, I think I love to ask this question of people: what will be one of the greatest things you ever do? Not what you've done. So that's my question to you, Joy. And I'm sorry to kind of end this on
That's okay. That's okay.
What will be the greatest thing you think you're going to do?
We're 30 seconds over. I could actually just escape from this, couldn't I? But I won't. Okay. So what will be the greatest thing that I will ever do?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be being in a million people's lives in some way. I'm sure I probably touched quite a few people in that way anyway.
Yeah.
But for me, it's more to do with leaving a legacy behind where perhaps I've lived up to my name.
I like
Joy.
that.
You know,
So
that might be it.
well, we can all help with that right now. If you follow me and you've been watching this, follow Joy. Go and check out who she is and what she does. What's the best way? Because I've put this on my socials. Please feel free to tell people how they can connect with you and just tell us. I know we've gone over an hour, but you know,
You
why don't
are
we just take a few
so
minutes?
putting me on the spot. But yes,
What do you
LinkedIn,
do?
definitely, guys. LinkedIn and YouTube, you can definitely find me, either Karen Joy Langley, because I'm a Karen as well, but Joy Langley. I will try and put some notes somewhere on LinkedIn anyway, at least, so you can find me, and anywhere else. I'm on YouTube at the moment, but I'll get the information out there. I've also got a newsletter with well, it's talking to people about emotional intelligence. So I do have a newsletter too, so you can join my community. But I'm going to have to put these things into my YouTube, I think, and also onto LinkedIn so that people can find me. But Pete, I appreciate you sharing that and allowing me to say that. And we are definitely 2 minutes over. I'm just going to make sure that the comments are all.
Wasn't this fun?
That was fun. And, you know, I've got a message here from Tamara, who says, hello, everyone. So inspiring. So, you know what? We've done a good thing with the 60 minutes or 62 minutes of time that we spent on this earth today. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for having you as my guest, Pete. You do inspire me. You ask me lots of questions and I just have to answer them, but they're good questions. That is the value of having someone who is a mirror. They will ask you questions which sometimes you're comfortable with, sometimes you're not. And the ones that you're not comfortable with is where the growth lies.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. It's not scary. You have to be around people that you trust to realize that that sensation of discomfort is, ooh, I'm being called to grow again.
To mature like a good wine or a good cheese. And that's what I'm going to go and do. I'm going to go and mature.
Everyone's saying thank you. They've all had a great time. You know, Melissa Curley saying thank you. Let's put it up there. And yeah, it's just been a great time for everyone. So have fun, everyone, whatever you do. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's been fun talking to you, Pete. We'll come back for round 2, I'm sure, and just have a great day, everyone. And connect with me and connect with Pete. Please feel free to do so. Okay, see you all and have a great time. See you all. Bye.